This is another episode of Talks with Tyler ISD, a podcast about the passionate people who have a heart for students. This podcast is brought to you by Texas Bank and Trust. Thank you for joining us for Talks with Tyler ISD. I'm your host, Jennifer Hines, and joining us is Dr. Marty Crawford, Superintendent of Schools for Tyler ISD. Thank you for joining us today as we are getting ready to wrap up the school year for 23-24, and we are also wrapping up our Bond 2022 with the opening of 2 new schools. Very exciting with our ribbon cuttings this week. How's that process been?
Colloquially, we called it, one and done, 2 and through.
Right.
Because this does wrap up 20 years of an incredible journey that our community has backed to where we have either rebuilt new with additions and renovated all of our campuses district-wide. So you're thinking 26 campuses. And to cap it off with a new Hubbard Middle School, which was the focal point of this last referendum back in 2022. And then the cherry on top is Early College High School, the number 1 rated high school in East Texas, getting a new building for the 400 plus, hopefully growing to 600 plus students that we'll have there one day. So the process, I think if you'll ask our facilities team, construction right now in the environment that we're in with the economy and supply chain and materials availability with all the geopolitical issues that we have has been a challenge. But being able to cut the ribbons at both Early College and Hubbard is certainly something that we're very excited about because it does represent what this community has done for its children and for its teachers.
Well, and I love that Hubbard, we're replacing a building that's, over 55 years old, and the minute school gets out, the old school is going to be torn down, and we're actually going to get a really cool track. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, I wasn't here in 2013 when the 2013 model middle schools were designed. I got in on the back end to where we actually were able to put the synthetic surface down for playing fields. They were programmed to be grass, but the tracks were laid and we put the synthetic fields in. Well, people probably remember this. A while back, under a previous administration, a previous board, they had decided to convert Rose Stadium into just more of a soccer field or football field. And so we really haven't had a district track to be able to host our own relays at, whether it be middle school or high school. So with this bond, we were able to put an 8-lane regulation as approved by UIL track in that's going to go with the field as well. So over time, that will grow into the district's track stadium so that we can host our own meets, and our kids won't be getting home at midnight from always having to travel to either Nacogdoches or Texas High or Lufkin or somewhere like that. We'll actually be able to host track meets here in Tyler, Texas once again. So
we have the true competition size track that's going to be going in, and that's for both middle school and high school track meets.
Right, and we were being efficient instead of going and building one at the tune of $4 to $8 million at a central location. We were actually using this last one at Hubbard to be able to make that where the district track will be located. Of course, Hubbard will be able to use it for practice, and they'll be able to host football games there as well. But whenever we want to host a track meet, that's where we'll be able to host a track meet at a certified UIL-approved track. Both of our high schools only have 7 lanes right now, and that last lane up against us is pretty skinny. So we're not able to do that at our existing locations right now, but we're going to at the Hubbard track.
Well, that's wonderful. And of course, this also brings Hubbard up to the standards of the other middle schools, other comprehensive middle schools that we have, 1,200 student capacity, so room to grow. They're just going to have amazing facilities.
Yeah, I think with the great thing about this last bond is I think it puts us at a capacity of 22,000 students. We're at 18,000, a little bit over that plus right now. So when you start talking about not having to go to a bond here for the next few years or so, decades, I think that's something that the community could be excited about. I think we'll probably be out of the debt business within the next 15 or 20 years. We'll have everything paid off. So by the time we get to that point, within 40 years, your debt service on the tax rate should be very minimal. And so I think that's something to be to be excited about as well if you're a community member, if you're a taxpayer here, that you've been able to get all of these buildings up to speed. And absolutely, all of our buildings, going back to 20 years ago, were standardized, and the safety and security features that we have to go along with the modern instructional opportunities we have in these buildings is something we're very proud of, because keeping our kids and our teachers and our staff safe and secure while they're inside learning is something that is so important these days. It always has been, but in today's world that we're living in, we believe that we've got some things that are on the cutting edge that other school systems are now modeling after what we've done for the last 20 years.
And let's talk a little bit about Early College High School. They're getting their own building, 60,000 square feet, brand spanking new, and they deserve it. I mean, they are the #1 high school in East Texas, according to U.S. News and World Report. Let's talk about that building, because it's not just that they're getting a new building, but it's also going to help our CTC students.
Yeah, no doubt. Part of that building that we have up the hill is what we call it. Actually have a cafeteria and a serving line and a dining hall now as part of a large commons area that CTC students will now be able to actually eat lunch on campus now because of that. Back in 2013, whenever we were programming CTC, we did not program a cafeteria in there. Instead, we've been hustling back to get to the campuses whenever they need to for lunch. So they'll be able to actually eat on campus, since they're actually sharing the campus as well. And then, of course, Early College High School will as well. So we're excited about the ECHS campus, not because we're going to have some benefits there for technical dual credit opportunities for our ECHS kids over on the CT side of things, but at the same time, CTC students will be able to actually eat lunch there that day instead of us having to do as much transit as we've been doing. They're still going to have to be transited back to the campuses, but it won't be the hustle that we've had in previous years, or the first 8 years of that building being open.
Well, and that also helps cut down on their time of being shuttled back and forth, and more time learning in the classroom.
Yeah,
so that's wonderful.
No doubt. I know that there was a lot of heartache when we were going through the bond from some Early College High School students, because they had really taken the old Stewart campus and made it their own. But being able to say that every one of our students is in a brand new facility or recently renovated is something that we're very proud of, and we couldn't have done it without the community, without the taxpayers backing on this, and it's going to be a great thing for Tyler, Texas. And you can't say enough about TJC and our partner with Early College High School.
Absolutely.
Juan Mejia, the president at TJC, was recently allowed to tour the facility, and he was boasting with pride because he realizes that the partnership there is so strong, one of the more unique partnerships in the state of Texas.
Well, and the other cool thing is that you're seeing more students go to that school. We've got 159 students that have enrolled for next year as freshmen, which is going to be our largest class going into Early College High School.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
The largest incoming freshman class in the short history of that school, 6 or 8 years, however long it's been open. And that really warms our heart. We challenged Principal Amanda Hortman to increase the enrollment there, and it's really working. It's also helping with, a high school capacity. Again, I went back to saying that we've got 22,000 student capacity in our school system. A lot of our choice programs have helped with that. Not only do every one of our middle schools now have 1,200 seat capacity for students in there, but our high schools are built for 2,750. And then you've got Early College High School, you've got the CT Center, you've got some other choice programs like Birdwell Immersion Academy, that's a K-8 campus, along with Caldwell K-8. So school choice is real, it's authentic here in Smith County. I've said that. We've got great relationships with our private and our charter peers. We've got some pretty cool things that are happening inside of our school system as well. So it's genuine in Smith County, regardless of what's being said in Austin.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of Austin, they decided to change up the STAR test this past year. A lot of people, if they've been watching it, have seen some of the issues and bumps in the road. Talk a little bit about what we've been dealing with as a district when it comes to the STAR test and the ratings.
Yeah, what do you want to start with? You want to start with AI grading our responses as far as the writing portion of the test, or maybe the change up in the accountability system, the change up in the assessment. There's no doubt that Texas education is trying to get better. Continuous improvement is always. We're never going to be satisfied with where we're at. That's just part of it. I can reflect back to taking the old TABS test back in the day when I was a student here in Texas. So this has been going on for 40 plus years, obviously. There's no doubt at this time it's the most rigorous assessment that we've ever seen for our students. The format has been changed. It's not just a multiple choice question test anymore.
Yeah, it's not the Scantron that we
Read
remember.
us bubble in everything. That's correct. So a lot of it is technology driven. Again, there's been the infusion of AI. That's computers actually grading our stuff. So when you've taken some of the human element out of it, it's certainly something that we have to keep an eye on. We have to continue to compete with. I've said this, if computers are going to be grading what we're doing, maybe our students need to be able to use ChatGPT to be able to construct their responses, because that's what they're going to be dealing with whenever they enter the workforce down the road. But right now, it is AI grading our student responses, and it's just something we're going to have to continue with. We're always having to do this, and things like this podcast or whatever we put out through the media, our community understands that we're not only just contending with some of the deficiencies or gaps that our students may walk into our campuses with. We're also having to contend with an ever-changing assessment and accountability environment at the state level. I mean, after all, we were able to do our projections of what our accountability ratings would have been last year. Those were never released by the state. So we're looking forward to seeing what this year looks like up against last year, and seeing how we can get better. That's the way to approach this.
So dealing with new testing, dealing with new accountability, it's a lot of changes. And then let's talk about Austin again. We are looking at going into a legislative year, and funding was not happening this past go around. So you've got inflation going up. I've seen studies show a 19% inflation increase from when teachers were last given a bump. What do you see happening with that?
Yeah, somewhere in the middle, probably anywhere from 7% to 19%. Anyone watching this podcast knows where we've been the last 5 years. There's no doubt that COVID did a job on us globally. It did a job on us economically. It did a job on us educationally. I think we're finally getting back there. What's puzzling about all the contention that we had this last legislative session, and as we roll into another one, man, I can't believe this next January it's going to start again, is the fact that it's all about the economy. And if Texas wants to continue to be one of the top 15 economies in the world, its workforce is going to have to be there. We've been there before. But it's disappointing that we don't understand what drives that workforce, and that is education. And if I were in charge, and I'm not, I would have approached the last session that we're going to make Texas education, all of Texas education, the best that it possibly can be. Instead, we focused on a very narrow thing about vouchers.
Right.
And what got caught up into that was teaching compensation. And if it was up to me, again, I think that one thing that you need to look at is if you know that we're trying to make sure that Texas' economy is robust, and that education, whether it be private, charter, or public education, or homeschool education drives that, we need to improve all of it.
Right.
And at least the public education piece is teaching compensation. We need talent. In this era that we've just been driving out teachers because of a lot of the rhetoric that has come out of Austin, we need talent. And to be able to do that, we need to be able to compete as an industry, and that is through the compensation piece of it. They put a teacher task force together, a couple of years ago, and just spent a little bit of time on compensation. People need to be able to live.
Right.
And that's where inflation drives all of this.
They got to be able to still feed their kids and
That's
provide
right.
a roof over their head and make a good living.
That's right.
Doing something like that.
So let's champion our teachers, and let's start doing that in the form of compensation. And let's be competitive. And I think that that's something that maybe this next legislative session we'll get over some of the hard feelings about vouchers, and seeing that that's something we can do is make sure that we're rewarding our teachers.
Well, and if anybody that's listening to this wants to know more about things that are going on in Austin, we do have a page on our website, tylerisd.org/legislative, where they can find out more about some of these different topics that we just covered. Let's talk a little bit about safety and security, because that's also seen a lot of changes. One of the best things about Tyler ISD is we were ahead of the game on a lot of different issues, but we have really stepped up. I know we get phone calls almost daily from other school districts. How are you doing what you're doing? What are you doing? But we really are ahead.
We are. I'll go back to 20 years ago whenever we were programming our new facilities. And, the controlled vestibules is something that we have prided ourselves in over the last 20 years. Well, COVID also let us, kind of tinker with some things that our community was accustomed to, as far as just being able to maybe go into campuses whenever they needed to go into campuses. Well, we've actually added a couple other layers of security there, whether it be cameras, whether it be door annunciators. Oh my gosh, those are so annoying, but they're so effective, letting us know if a door was left open or not. And then our monitors out front, where you actually have to get on camera to get buzzed in, even in a voice approval as well. So those are just a few of the things that we can list that are very public facing, that people know about. The behind the scenes stuff, those are proprietary.
Right.
And so we can't really let our game plan out there as much as we'd like to, just to kind of show what we're doing. But we've gotten phone calls from California, from other states, other school systems here in Texas. We've been in close contact with the Texas Education Agency as they've gotten more involved in safety and security. But you're right, we've been doing this before. I mean, we saw in 2019 when Santa Fe happened that there was going to be a need there. And so we really redesigned what we have done. We've got a police officer at every campus. We made that an important thing to do before there was any legislation that said that was something that the legislature wanted us to happen. Oh, by the way, without additional funding.
Right.
We were able to fit that in our very fiscally conservative budget that we create every year. So a police officer at every campus. We also have a school safety and security team that are retired FBI agents. They can do some things that are legal, that are outside of the normal responsibilities of a school resource officer on a campus, but they are very flexible and very innovative in the things that they're able to come up with as well. We have great relationships with all the law enforcement agencies around Smith County. You think about FBI, ATF, Smith County Fire, Tyler Police Department. Sheriff Larry Smith has been a great resource and a great partner, always asking what we can do. So, Smith County is a little different because we believe in some things that other counties may not believe in. So we're able to really be aggressive in the way that we manage our schools. You kind of get over to the student discipline side of things as well, because those two things do bleed together and blend together. And that's one thing that we're going to always have as a philosophy, at least under my superintendency, and that is that one child will not impact the learning opportunities for the other 22 inside of a classroom. That's just not acceptable. Society has changed to where they really pop you, or they really have scrutiny over some of those things. But that's just not the way it's going to happen. Everybody wants to know why society has turned the way it's turned, that it's changed over the last 40 to 50 years. Well, I can tell you 40 to 50 years ago, that philosophy was a staple in Texas education, and it's the staple here in Tyler ISD at this time.
Well, and the other thing that I like, you had mentioned officers on every campus, and some campuses have multiple officers. We actually have the biggest law enforcement, the third largest behind the Tyler Police Department and the Sheriff's Department. So we really do have that working relationship with them, which is nice.
Yeah.
And a robust law enforcement agency right here within our own district.
Yeah, no doubt. Early this year, we had some swatting calls. We had some stuff that were happening in the community that were near our campuses. And if you did not see the response from all of those local agencies here in town during that time, I don't know how you missed it, because it was impressive. It made me feel like that if we ever had an issue on one of our campuses, there's no doubt that the jets will be scrambled. I keep talking about that. And certainly the city will be there, the county will be there, and even the feds will be there if needed.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the successes from this past year. What are some of the successes that you have seen for the district throughout this past year?
Gosh, how hard is it to not lead off with the fact that we had a student actually, what I'd say in baseball terms, bat 1,000 when it came to taking the SAT or ACT.
Yeah.
He was perfect on that. So, if you go from student success, you start going down the list of those types of things. That's something that we're very proud of. And then, of course, with the recent announcement of Early College High School being rated as it was across the state of Texas, the number one rated high school in East Texas, again, for like the third or fourth consecutive, maybe fifth consecutive year with the USA Today rankings. Those are things that come to the top of my head, and I'm sure you've got a long list there of things that I can comment on.
Yeah, well, and I think one of the things that's also great is 2023 District of Distinction Award from the Texas Art Education Association. That's one that we keep winning year after year. And then the Teacher Incentive Allotment, our Top Teachers program. I think that is crucial because, as you were mentioning, paying our teachers. We want good talent. Well, this is one of the ways that we can do that through the state. And to see that program grow has been great. Yeah,
being rewarded for outcomes, because that's what it's about, is student success. And I think we're going to be close to $1 million in allocations on the Teacher Incentive Allotment, which is a state program. It doesn't come out of our local budget. So, of course, we're going to access that. We've got some systems in place to make it a little bit more manageable than what maybe other districts are willing to do. Plus, we're a little bit of a contrarian here in Tyler, Texas. We want to be successful, and we're going to really put under the microscope for things that are coming out of Austin. If it makes sense for us, we're going to do it. We're not just going to fight the legislature or the agency just for the sake of fighting. TIA, the Teacher Incentive Allotment, or what we call Tyler Optimal Performance, our teachers, we're going to participate in that because it's actually worth $1 million or so for our teachers to perform, and it's really driving some of the success we have. You talked about some of the other successes that we had as far as the arts go. Mm-hmm. Everybody on Friday nights, the most public facing thing that you have is a football game, obviously.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Traditional East Texas, right?
Yes.
But we compete really well in the arts. Sweepstakes ratings at our middle schools and our high school bands.
Bands are doing great.
Those are something that we're very proud of, and so we'll continue to support the arts where we can. If you haven't been to a musical or a play at one of our high schools, they're incredible. Our middle schools do a great job as well. Mm-hmm. And then some of the production stuff that we have, that we actually, the materials that we have that students make as far as inside of our art classes, those have been phenomenal as well. So, excuse me, Tyler's the hub of East Texas. Mm-hmm. And it's the capital of East Texas. We like to call it that, or the Republic.
It's the beacon of light.
It's the beacon. And so we're able to do some things here. We've got a small town feel in Tyler, but we have big city opportunities within inside of our school system. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, kids can figure out where they fit as far as our choice programs go or our extracurricular programs go, and the arts is one of those.
Well, and I also love Leader in Me. We are district-wide with the Leader in Me, which, for those that don't know what Leader in Me is, that is the Franklin Covey 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And this is the kids' version, and it really does help them learn leadership skills and the habits. And one of the fun things that they just did recently is some of the elementary students got to connect globally with other Leader in Me classrooms halfway around the world and hear about what it's like to be a kid in that country and what they're doing and what they like and what toys they play with or what their favorite subject is. And that was kind of a neat connection there as well.
Yeah, no doubt. Gone to the days to where Libby Elementary or Baker Kuntz Intermediate School in Carthage, Texas, I'm sitting there pinning a pen pal letter to some kid in Germany.
Yes.
Now we're able to do it in real time, and it's pretty neat that our Leader Me campuses are participating with this to show them what our culture looks like and seeing what education looks like across the oceans in real time. It's incredible that the resources that we do have for our kids to become these great learners. I miss the days of the old pen pal letters and waiting for those to come through the mailbox, but certainly those are some things that have happened this school year that we're saying, oh, that's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. And this is something that kind of surprised us, and we're like, oh, we're so blessed to be able to participate in something like that.
And of course, we're heading up to graduation. We're about to graduate over 1,100 students, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, no doubt. By the time this podcast airs, we'll be preparing for that. It's next week.
Yep.
Just remember, y'all, we try to graduate the night of. And I know folks just wonder, why do they do that? Well, it's because, think about this. If you've got an auntie or you've got a grandparent that's coming in from out of state, they've flown in, they want to see those kids graduate. So
Absolutely.
Bear with us as we dodge storms. We don't mind getting wet, so prepare for that.
Right.
What we don't do is we don't mess with lightning.
No.
And so you can't outrun the speed of light. That's what I've always said. That's the old baseball coach coming out of me, that if you see lightning, get out of there.
Yep.
But a little bit of water won't hurt us. So bear with us as we try to dodge those things. We do graduate later in the evening, so if it gets unseasonably too warm, at least it's going to be more at night. The sun will get behind the pine trees at Rose Stadium. We're actually graduating both early college, high school, and Rise on the same night at Tyler High's Lions Den, so we're excited about that. So it's a great season for a superintendent because it culminates not only the end of a school year, but the end of 13 years of education inside of our Texas K-12 system.
And seeing those students go on to be successful in college, career, military, whatever path that they decide to take.
No doubt. Love seeing that where our kids are going to go to school with our Night of Shining Stars or any other marketing that in publications where our kids are going. And of course, Noah Kimmel, another Tyler ISD student, headed to Annapolis to the Naval Academy. So proud of him. And there's been so many stories about our kids going either to, the new Ivies, is what they call them, or maybe Ivy League, which right now I don't know if that's that's too popular, but it does show some incredible achievements by our academicians, our top performing students, to where they're going to school. For some reason, this old Baylor Bear has a concern. We had more UT Austin kids this year than we ever have. So I'm hoping that little tiny Baptist school in Waco will take notice of that and start doing a little bit more recruiting in Tyler.
Well, I'm a Longhorn, so I'm super excited to see them going to Austin. And of course, that's such a difficult school to get into nowadays. So it does speak again to the amazing accomplishments of our students.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like for those that are listening to this podcast to know about just this past year, or even looking forward?
Yeah, I just can't say enough about how impressed I've been to have been superintendent the last 10 years and a decade plus now going into next year. So what's that next decade going to look like? We've got all of our buildings built. Yeah. And so thank goodness that I'm done. I don't know about you, but I'm done trying to go and sell a bond election to build new facilities. Still concerned about things that are coming out of Austin, whether or not they're pro-public education or not. So we'll be in contact with the community about where they can help and kind of state our case. Because, we just don't need to be caught up in the vortex of some of the rhetoric that's been going on, because we do things a little bit differently here. Right. And I think a lot of our community recognize that. And at the same time, we just want to make sure that we're protecting what we have here behind the pine curtain here in the East Texas Republic.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Marty Crawford, Superintendent of Tyler ISD, for joining us today. And if y'all are listening to us at home, we'd love for you to check out this podcast, share it with your friends, and check out all of the other Talks with Tyler ISD podcasts. And if you'd like to know about all things Tyler ISD, you can always download the Tyler ISD app on your iPhone or your Android. And you can also get our district newsletter at get.tylerisd.news.
We'd like to thank our sponsor, Texas Bank and Trust. Subscribe to Talks with Tyler ISD on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. Please share this episode with your friends and family.